Welcome to Billerica Public Library's Book Buzz December publications. Watch and listen to see what Billerica Public Library and Merrimack Consortium have purchased for your next adventures into the world of reading. Our first genre is contemporary fiction. Bright Burning Things by Lisa Harding. Sonia used to perform on stage. She attended glamorous parties, dated handsome men, rode in fast cars. But somewhere along the way, the stage lights Sonia lived for dimmed to black. In their absence came darkness, blackouts, empty cupboards, hazy nights she could not remember. Haunted by her failed career and lingering trauma from her childhood, Sonia fell deep into an alcoholic abyss. What kept her from losing herself completely was Tommy, her son. But her love for Tommy rivaled her love for the bottle. Addiction amplified her fear of her losing child. Every maternal misstep compelled her to drink. Tommy's precious life was in her shaky hands. Eventually, Sonia was forced to make a choice: give up drinking or lose Tommy forever. Hidden Treasures, a novel of first love by Michelle Adams. Once upon a time, in a small village in southern France, a pretty, willful English girl is falling in love. Frances Langley has fallen under Benoit's romantic spell, so she's sure she is that he's everything she's ever wanted. A self-assured, sexy man, experienced and just a little bit mysterious. But Frances is hiding a secret, one that would surely separate them if he ever knew the truth. And to hold on to his love, she is willing to do anything for him, even put herself at risk by hiding a precious object stolen by the Nazis decades before. Now, years later, Francis's son Harry opens the door of his late mother's home, never expecting to see Tabitha, the lost love of his life, on the other side. Their angry parting had broken his heart, but now she holds a letter, sent by his mother just before her death, begging the pair to search together for a priceless jewelry box hidden somewhere in her little Cotswold cottage. And so they embark on a journey of discovery, but soon find themselves searching for much more than a missing piece of art. Together they learn that the true riches are not those buried in the clutter of Francis's cottage, but are instead the treasures they each hold buried deep inside their hearts. The Woman of Pearl Island by Polly Crosby. When Tottenland answers an ad for a personal assistant, she doesn't know what to expect from her new employer, Mary Ann, an eccentric elderly woman. Mary Ann lives on a remote island that her family has owned for generations, and for decades her only companions have been butterflies and tightly held memories of her family. But there are some memories Mary Ann would rather forget, such as when the island was commandeered by the British government during World War II. Now, if Mary Ann can trust Tottenland with her family story, she might finally be able to face the long-buried secrets of her past that have kept her isolated far, far too long. Our second genre is historical fiction. Last Dance of the Debutante by Julia Kelly. When it's announced that 1958 will be the last year of the debutantes are to be presented at court, thousands of eager mothers and hopeful daughters flood the palace with letters seeking the year's most coveted invitation, a chance for their daughters to curtsy to the young Queen Elizabeth and officially come out into society. In an effort to appease her traditional mother, aspiring university student Lily Nichols agrees to become a debutante and do the season, a glittering and grueling string of countless balls and cocktail parties. In doing so, she befriends two very different women: the cool and aloof Lena Harford, whose apparent perfection hides a darker side, and the ambitious Catherine Norman, who dreams of a career once she helps her parents find their place among the elite. But the glorious effervescence of the season evaporates once Lily learns a devastating secret that threatens to destroy her entire family. Faced with a dark past, she's forced to ask herself what really matters: her family legacy or her own happiness. Boy Underground by Catherine Ryan Hyde. 1941. Stephen is the son of a prosperous landowners in rural California. Although his parents don't approve, he found true friends in Nick, Suki, and Ollie, sons of field workers. The group is inseparable, but Stephen is in turmoil. He's beginning to acknowledge that his feelings for Nick amount to much more than friendship. When the bombing of Pearl Harbor draws the U.S. into World War II, Suki and his family are forced to leave their homes for an internment camp at Manzawa. Ollie enlists in the army and ships out, and Nick must flee. Betrayed by his own father and accused of a crime he didn't commit, he turns to Stephen for help. Hiding Nick in a root cellar on his family's farm, Stephen acts as Nick's protector and a lifeline to the outside world. As the war escalates, bonds deepen and fear of being different falls away. But after Nick unexpectedly disappears one day, Stephen's life focus is to find him. On the way, Stephen finds a place he belongs and a lesson about love that will last him his lifetime. Orphans of the Storm by Celia Emery. Nice, France, 1911. After 3 years of marriage, Marcella has finally had enough. Her husband Michael, an ambitious tailor, may have charmed her during their courtship, but their few years of marriage have revealed a cruel and controlling streak. The 21-year-old mother of two is determined to get a divorce. But while awaiting the judge's decision on custody of their children, Michael receives news that changes everything. Meanwhile, fun-loving New York socialite Margaret Hayes is touring Europe with some friends. Restless, she resolves to head home aboard the most celebrated steamer in the world. But as the ship sets sail for America, carrying two infants bearing false names, the paths of Marcella, Michael, and Margaret cross, and nothing will ever be the same again. Our third genre is fantasy. The Lie Is Not by M.A. Carrick. In Nadraza, peace is as tenuous as a single thread. The ruthless house in Desta has been destroyed, but darkness still weaves through the city's filthy alleys and jewel-bright gardens seen by those who know where to look. Diwasi has always known. He has sacrificed more than anyone imagines to carve himself a position of power and influence among the nobility, hiding a will of steel behind a velvet smile. He'll be damned if he'll let anyone threaten what he's built. Gray knows too well, bent under the yoke of too many burdens. He fights to protect the city's most vulnerable. Sooner or later, the fight will demand more than he can give. And Ren, the daughter of no clan, knows best of all. Caught in a knot of lies, torn between her heritage and her masquerade, she relies on her gifts for reading patent to survive, and it shows her the web of darkness that traps her city. But all three have yet to discover just how far the web stretches, and in the end, it will take more than wits and knives to cut themselves free. The Excalibur Curse by Kirsten White. While journeying north toward the dark green, Genevieve falls into the hands of her enemies. Behind her are Lancelot trapped on the other side of a magical barrier they created to protect Camelot, and Arthur, who's been led away from his kingdom chasing after false promises. But the greatest danger isn't what lies ahead of Genevieve, it's what's been buried inside her. Vowing to unravel the truth of her past with or without Merlin's help, Genevieve joins forces with the sorceress Morgana and her son Mordred, and faces the confusing, forbidden feelings she still harbors for him. When Genevieve makes an agonizing discovery about who she is and how she came to be, she finds herself with an impossible choice: fix a terrible crime or help prevent war. Untold Story by Genevieve Cogman. Irene is trying to learn the truth about Albrecht and the possibility that he's her father. But when the library orders her to kill him, and then Albrecht himself offers to sign a truce, she has to discover why he originally betrayed the library. With her allies endangered, her strongest loyalties are under threat. She'll have to trace his past across multiple worlds and into the depths of mythology and folklore to find the truth at the heart of the library and why the library was first created. Our fourth genre is suspense and mystery. True Crime Story by Joseph Knox. In 2011, Zoe Nolan walked out of her dormitory in Manchester and was never seen or heard from again. Her case went cold. Her story was sad, certainly, but hardly sensational, crime writer Knox thought. He wouldn't have given her any more thought were it not for his friend Evelyn Mitchell, another writer struggling to come up with a new idea. Evelyn was wondering just what happens to all the girls who go missing. What happens to the Zoe Knowns of the world? Evelyn began investigating herself, interviewing Zoe's family and friends, and emailing Joseph with chapters of the book she was writing with her findings. Uneasy with the corkscrew twists and turns, Joseph Knox embedded himself in the case, ultimately discovering a truth more tragic and shocking than he could possibly had imagined. Curse of Salem by Kay Hooper. The small town of Salem has been quiet for months, or so Bishop and his elite special crimes unit believed. But then Hollis Templeton and Diana Hayes receive a warning in Diana's eerie gray time between the world of the living and the realm of the dead that a twisted killer is stalking Salem, bent on destroying in the most bloody and horrifying way possibly the 5 families that founded the town. The stakes are high, especially for new friends Nellie and Finn, both members of the 5. And this time, Bishop and his wife Miranda will lead the team to hunt down a vicious killer and uncover a dark and ancient curse haunting Salem. Darkness Falls by Robert Bridanza. Kate Marshall's fledgling PI agency takes off when she and her partner, Tristan Harper, are hired for their first big case. It's a cold one. 12 years before, journalist Joanna Duncan disappeared after exposing a political scandal. Most people have moved on. Joanna's mother refuses to let go. When Kate and Tristan gain access to the original case files, they revisit the same suspects and follow the same leads, but not to the same dead ends. Among Joanna's personal effects, Kate discovers the names of 2 young men who also vanished without a trace. As she connects the last day of the 3 missing persons, Kate realizes that Joanna may have been onto something far more sinister than anyone first believed: the identity of a serial killer in hiding in plain sight. The closer Kate comes to finding him, the darker it's going to get. How to Book a Murder by Cynthia Kuhn. To help save her family's floundering Colorado bookstore, Starlight Bookshop, newly minted PhD Emma Stars agrees to plan a mystery-themed dinner party for her wealthy, well-connected high school classmate, Tabitha Baxter. It's a delightful evening of cocktails until Tabitha's husband, Tip, hosting the affair in the guise of Edgar Allan Poe's detective, winds up murdered. In a heartbeat, Emma and her Aunt Nora, a famous mystery writer, become suspects. Emma is sure the party's over for Starlight Events until celebrated author Calliope Nightfall, whose gothic sensibilities are intrigued by the circumstances, implores the bookseller to create a Poe-themed launch event for her latest tome. Throwing a bash to die for while searching for additional clues is already enough to drive Emma stark raving mad. But another shocking crime so on reveals that Silvercrest has not yet reached the final chapter of a puzzling case. My Darling Husband by Kimberly Bell. Jade and Cam Lasky are, by all accounts, a happily married couple with 2 adorable kids, a spacious home, and a rapidly growing restaurant business. But their world is tipped upside down when Jade is confronted by a masked home invader. As Cam scrambles to gather the ransom money, Jade starts to wonder if they're as financially secure as their lifestyles suggest, and what other secrets her husband is keeping from her. Cam may be a good father, a celebrity chef, and a darling husband, but there's another side he's kept hidden from Jade that has put their family in danger. Unbeknownst to Cam and Jade, the home invader has been watching them and is about to turn their family secrets into a public scandal. Silent Parade by Kiko Hiroshino. A popular young girl disappears without a trace. Her skeletal remains discovered 3 years later in the ashes of a burnt-out house. There's a suspect and compelling circumstantial evidence of his guilt, but no concrete proof. When he isn't indicted, he returns to mock the girl's family. And this isn't the first time he's been suspected of murder of a young girl. Nearly 20 years ago, he was tried and released due to lack of evidence. Detective Chief Inspector Kasangi of the Homicide Division of Tokyo Police worked both cases. The neighborhood in which the murdered girl lived is famous for an annual street festival featuring a parade with entries from around Tokyo and Japan. During the parade, the suspected killer dies unexpectedly. His death is suspiciously convenient, but the people with all the best motives have solid alibis. DCI Kasanga turns once again to his college friend, physics professor, and occasional police consultant known as Detective Galileo to help solve the string of impossible to prove murders. The Replacement Wife by Dobby Kane. Elisa Wright is a mom and a wife living in a nice quiet life in a nice quiet town. She's also convinced her brother-in-law is a murderer. Josh has one dead wife and one missing fiance, and though he grieved for them, he starts dating someone new. Elisa fears for the woman's safety, and she desperately wants to know what happened to her friend, Josh's missing fiance. Searching for clues means investigating her own family, and she doesn't like what she finds, a laptop filled with incriminating information, other women. But when Elisa becomes friends with Josh's new girlfriend and starts to question things she thinks are true, Elisa wonders if her memories of a horrible incident a year ago have finally pushed her over the edge and Josh is really innocent. With so much at stake, Elisa fights off panic attacks and a strange illness. Is it a breakdown or something more? The race is on to get to the truth before another disappearance because there's a killer in the family. Or is there? The Witching Tree by Alice Blanchard. A legend has it, if you carve your deepest desire into a bark of a witch tree, then over time, as the tree grows, it will swallow the carvings until only a witch can read them. Until now. Detective Natalie Lockhart gained unwanted notoriety when she and her family became front and center of not one, but two sensational murder cases. Now she's lost her way, burnt out and always looking over her shoulder. Natalie desperately thinks that quitting the police force is her only option left. All that changes when a beloved resident, a practicing Wiccan, founder of the town's oldest coven, is killed in a fashion more twisted and shocking than Natalie has ever seen before, leaving the town wailing. Natalie has no choice but to help solve the case along with Detective Luke Pittman, her boss, an old childhood friend she cannot admit she loves, even to herself. There is a silent, evil presence in Burning Lake that will not rest, and what happens next will shock the whole town and Natalie to the core. 20 Years Later by Charlie Donnelly. Avery Mason, host of American Events, knows the subject that grabbed a TV audience's attention. Her latest story, a murder mystery laced with kinky sex, tragedy, and betrayal is guaranteed to be ratings gold. New DNA technology has allowed the New York Medical Examiner's Office to make its first successful identification of a 9/11 victim in years. The twist, the victim, Victoria Ford, has been accused of gruesome murder of her married lover. In a chilling last phone call to her sister, Victoria begged her to prove her innocence. Emma Kind has waited 20 years to put her sister to rest, but closure won't be complete until she can clear Victoria's name. Alone, she's had no luck, but she's convinced that Avery's connection and fame will help. Avery, hoping to negotiate a more lucrative network contract, goes into investigative overdrive. Victoria had been having an affair with a successful novelist, found hanging from the balcony of his Catskills mansion. The rope, the bedroom, and the entire crime scene was covered in Victoria's DNA. Our last genre is informational text. Find Your Unicorn Space by E. Rutsky. Unicorn Space, the active and open pursuit of creative self-expression in any form that makes you uniquely you. To help readers embrace all that unlikely, surprising, and delightful places where their own unicorn space may be found, she speaks with trailblazers and thought leaders, academics, countless real people who have discovered theirs everywhere, from activism to artistic endeavors to second careers. Roski reveals what researchers have already known. Creativity is not optional, it's essential. Though most of us do need to remind ourselves how and where to find it. The 17-Day Kickstart Diet by Mike Moreno. Since the success of the 17-Day Diet, Dr. Mike Moreno had been a paragon of good health. But after a series of drastic setbacks, including a divorce, family deaths, and painful injury, his health began to deteriorate. He gained weight and started smoking cigars and let his exercise routine fall by the wayside. After a dramatic wake-up call, he got back on track, and now he's revealing the easy-to-use program that helped him reclaim his health. The Bright Ages by Matthew Gabrelli. The Bright Ages takes us through 10 centuries and crisscrosses Europe and Mediterranean, Asia, and Africa, revisiting familiar people and events with the new light cast upon them. We look with fresh eyes on the fall of Rome, Charlemagne, the Vikings, the Crusades, and the Black Death, but also into multi-religious experience of Iberia and the rays of Byzantium and the genius of Hildegard and the power of queens. We begin under a blanket of golden stars constructed by an empress with dramatic Roman, Spanish, and Christian bloodlines, and ended nearly 1,000 years later with the poet Dante, inspired by the same twinkling celestial canopy, writing an epic saga of heaven and hell that endures as a masterpiece of literature today. The Sleep Fix by Diana Macedo. Roughly 30% of the population is estimated to be living with insomnia, while many more unknowingly suffer from other sleep disorders. As an early morning reporter and overnight news anchor, Diane learned the hard way how valuable sleep is and how it affects everything from our heart to our brain to our immune system. The longer Diana struggled, the more her health deteriorated. Desperate, she tried standard sleep tip after standard sleep tip, but nothing worked. Instead, it made it worse. Finally, after developing a tolerance to sleeping pills, Diana decided to attack the problem as a journalist, interviewing sleep experts from all over the world to get to the bottom of what really keeps us from sleeping and the various ways to fix it. Skinny Taste Airfryer Dinners by Gina Homoglo. Gina returns with a must-have collection of healthy dinners for the beloved air fryer appliance. Air fryers allow you to cook meals with less oil and little cleanup by using hot, well-circulated air to evenly cook, crisp up foods in record time. Gina delivers 75 air fryer meals that are perfect, quick solutions to weeknight meals. Hearty dinners that are satisfyingly served as is or with just a simple salad or side.